Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome. My name is Christine Hall, and I'm founder of the MAWB, the Mississauga Area Women in Business. And today we're really fortunate to have Marianne D'Alessandro back with us. She actually did a session for us in the fall that was a huge hit. And when I was thinking of putting together these Lunch and Learn series, I'm like, oh, she definitely has to come back. It's one of those things, social media and email marketing, that you kind of need to hear the message more than once for it to sink in. And you need to hear the message more than once because sometimes the message contains so many bits and parts. You just get started on working on part 1 and 2, and you're like, okay, now what's the next part of that? So I'm excited to have her here. Marianne is the owner of TimeFlies-AdminServices, and she's a VA. And I want to say expert in MailChimp. She might not agree, or maybe she will. Sometimes when people say, oh, Christine's the expert in this, and I think, oh no, I'm not the expert. I know a lot, but because some of these programs and applications, there's so much to learn and know. So Marianne is in this room, our resident expert. How is that? Is that a good fit? That's awesome. All right. And today she's going to walk us through some strategies to help us get clearer on content strategy for our newsletters. And I also know that she's going to make us feel a lot more comfortable and break down some of the overwhelm we might be feeling with regard to sending out regular emails. So Marianne, I'm going to let you continue on with an introduction, share a little bit more about yourself, and then get into your presentation. How does that sound?
That sounds great. Thanks, Christine.
Do you want me to put the slide deck on right now as well, or will you direct me?
Yep, you can go ahead. So I'm asking Christine to put the slide deck on. I'm actually at our RV up north. And of course, today is one of those days where it's stormy all around us and the internet is really funky. So I'm using my hotspot to be on the call today, but I'm going to let Christine put the presentation up so we can follow along. Thanks for being here, everybody. I'm really excited. I love talking newsletters. It's something that over the past year and a half, I've really started to hone in on and focus on and do a lot of research on. And it's something that I absolutely love to do. So I thought, hey, if I love to.
Oh, what did I just do? Marianne? I just tried to pin Marianne onto the screen and I did something I shouldn't have done. Let me try to get her back. Sorry, ladies. I'm actually going quite blind and I need my glasses on and off and everything in between. Let me see if I can bring her back. Sorry about that. My apologies.
Sorry, did I get kicked out?
That was my fault. I was trying to pin you and I accidentally put you into the waiting room.
Oh, okay.
I put you into the waiting room because it started with P and I was looking for pin. My apologies.
Okay.
Sorry about that. You were probably thinking, what the heck's going on? All right. Well, I can't seem to find the pin right now. So I'm just not going to touch anything else. And I'm going to let you talk, Marianne. Sorry about that.
Okay. That's fine. So anyway, let's get right in here. I've got a lot of content that I want to share with you and hopefully you can follow along. Please feel free to stop and ask questions and we'll just jump right in. So a strategy for your newsletter content. You know, the struggle is real, right? We want to put a newsletter out. We want to put it out regularly, but what happens? We write an article this month, we get really busy next month, and we don't know what to write about, so we procrastinate it. And then we don't know what to write about the next time, and we procrastinate again. And we just keep procrastinating, or we just throw whatever into our newsletter. And now we're stuck. We're like, you know, what do I write this month? And we become frustrated, we become overwhelmed, and we get writer's block, and we just don't continue, right? And it's a start and stop process. So building a strategy helps us to really stay focused on the newsletter, be prepared in advance so that we get over the need to find something to write about because it's already planned out for us. And of course, it eliminates the writer's block because we now have focus on what we want to write about. And the more we do that month after month and build it into, you know, a few months at a time, It's like the red car syndrome, right? Where we don't see anybody with a red car. We buy a red car. Now everybody we see has a red car. Well, when you start getting into your content for your newsletter, all of a sudden you start to find pieces to write about. Ideas come into mind because you're focusing more on it. And that's where the strategy comes in. Research proves that you're more likely to reach a goal if you write it down. Right? Everybody probably has heard that. We agree. If we write it down, we seem to be a little more focused on getting towards it. So by putting this big plan in place, which really isn't all that intensive, but it's a plan in place, you will be more likely to get a newsletter out regularly and more easily and efficiently. Christine, can we go to the next slide? So let's talk about the mission. What's the mission of creating your newsletter? Well, your newsletter, your e-marketing, and even social media for that matter, is all about you, your product, your services. So these are questions to ask yourself and even create like a big board or a sheet of paper for each of them, a notebook, whatever it is, and really start filling in these blocks for yourself. So why do you do what you do or sell what you sell? You know, we always talk about the why, and it might be a little outdated to continue to talk about the why, but it's really important. Why is it you do what you do? And that will evolve and change. When I started as a VA, I was, I'm going to do admin tasks. And why do I do it? Because, well, that's my background and that's what I love to do. But as I started to do more newsletters and get involved with clients and help them with their email automation and their funnels, I found that, what do I want to do more of is newsletters. So this evolves, and keeping it up to date and writing notes down, maybe about what you do now, or even a list below that on what you'd like to do, helps you to focus more on what you can offer. Consider your target audience. Who are they? And I say target audience because wouldn't we all love to have that big, huge list? And maybe some of us have them of, 1,000, 2,000, 10,000 people on our newsletter list. I mean, we would love that huge list. And the fact is we could get there, and we will get there if we continue working on it. But let's think about the target audience, because really we want people who want to buy from us and want to work with us. And those are the people we need to focus our information on. So who's your target audience? And what is it you want them to buy from you? And how do you want to make people feel? So when I open up a newsletter, what's the feeling I'm going to get from that? Because that feeling is how people get to know, like, and trust you. So what's that feeling like? Do we want them to be organized? Do we want them to be efficient, effective? Do we want them to feel comforted? Do we want them to feel inspired? And it's different for everybody. I love to be inspired by people. That's huge for me. I want to inspire people, but I want to inspire them with the work that I do because that's who I am. I'm kind of a very focused, task-based person, right? So I don't want to write fluffy stories because that's not my business, but I want to write things that inspire people to get organized and to stay organized and to learn new tools. So you have to figure out for yourself, how do you want people to feel in order to get the right message in your newsletters? What about the benefits? What benefits is your audience going to receive? So what's the return on investment here? So if I subscribe to your newsletter, what benefit are you going to give me? What's the benefits to me reading your newsletter for the time I'm investing in reading it? So think of return on investment when you're writing as well. And the value. What's the value that your product, your service gives to people? Once you get those messages clear, you now have a space of words, of statements, perhaps some one-liners that really help you focus in and use consistent wording when you're writing out your newsletter and when you're planning the content in your newsletter. Christine, can we go to the next slide? Thank you. I love this quote. I don't know if any of you follow Janine Blackwell at all, but I really like this because we want to create an experience that connects with your audience, builds your credibility, and helps your people understand what is holding them back from getting results. Very clear and consistent, isn't it? We're giving an experience, we're making ourselves credible, and we want people who read our newsletter to somehow get results from the effort that we've put in to providing information to them. So that seems really big, but it's really not when you look at the mission portion that we just talked about. So let's talk about our products now. So we know a little bit about our business, what we want our audience to feel. So what are our products? Like really, what is it that your product is? You might have more than one. And if you have more than one, that's great. Maybe you have more than one service. Write them all out individually. And below each one, think about these things. What do you know about each of these products or these services that you're giving? So where is your expertise with these items or services? And what are the pain points for your audience with each one of these? Because let's face it, there's always a little bit of emotional selling, right? When you can hit somebody's pain point and make them understand that, you know, that this product is going to take away some pain in some way, then we have a better solid ground to move forward with them. We have to give people a reason to want the product or the service. And jump to the bottom, I'll come back to the revenue generators, but what are some quick tips that people can use, little micro tips with each one of these products and services? I want you to think about these and write them down. And this is ever evolving. And that's why I say, you know, get a notebook or a whiteboard or pieces of paper, it doesn't matter. And really review this on a regular basis. When things come to mind, drop them in there, drop those little hints and notes in there. Because this is what's going to create a real basis for you to write some solid newsletter content. And quick tips, micro tips, that's the return on investment. When you can give me a little tip to take away today, then I'm going to read your newsletter next time because I got a tip last time. So always think about how you can have your audience take something away. And going back to the revenue generators, your highest revenue generators is where you want to start with all this information. You know, we want to sell, and we all have higher priced items and lower priced items, or higher services and lower services. You know, we want to get people in the door, so maybe we offer them a smaller service. But you've got to think about, when it comes to sales, what are your revenue generators and what creates the best revenue for you? And those are your key items. Now, of course, you can't write about that every single month, but you need to know those, because if that's the best basis for your business growth, then we need to make sure we target them more often. Okay. Then something to think about is to think a little differently. How can you position your story a little differently from your competitor? And here's a short story for you that I read that really resonated with me. So years ago, Jenny Doan, who's CEO of the Missouri Star Quilt Company, decided there had to be a better way to make a quilt. She coined the term quick quilting and started creating quick quilting tutorials on YouTube. She did that over and over again and began building an audience. Today, she has 750,000 or over 750,000 subscribers and employs more people in her city than any other employer. People come from all over the world to see her because she positioned the story differently, right? Think about quilting and how overwhelming quilting can be, and she broke it down to quick quilting. So now more interest, it's quick, it's easier, and her audience grew. So she thought differently. So how can you position your story a little differently to attract people to it? Our content is so important, and the content strategy is so important. 40% of buyers view 3 to 5 pieces of content before engaging with the sales rep, right? So now at one point I'd heard you had to see something 7 times before you actually remembered it. But if someone's going to see something 3 to 5 times before engaging with you, then this is great because you can reuse your content. So don't feel that I'm putting all this effort into my e-newsletter or into my social media. Now I got to find new content for, my social media or my newsletter. Again, the content is all together. Like, you can use it and reuse it over and over again and let your readers see it over and over again. Yes, Christine.
Just a quick question about this 3 to 5 pieces of content. Do you mean 3 to 5 times? Or
it's a bit of both.
Okay. And do you think that this number differs than social media? Because I do use the number 7 to 12 times in social media. It's just a noisier, busier place. Do you think that email marketing, the number's lower because there's a little bit more intimacy coming into their inbox?
It is. And again, if we look at seeing something 7 times, so am I seeing the same thing or something similar 7 times? But when we look at 3 to 5 pieces of content, then it could be in different ways, right? So when I see an article that you write in your newsletter, I've got it in my inbox. Then I see maybe a small portion of that created as an image in Instagram. Now there's 2 pieces of content I've seen. Then I see something similar related to your business on Facebook. So now I've seen 3 pieces of content. Then your next newsletter comes in. Now I've seen 4 pieces of content from you focused on something in your business. So it becomes this real intricate, it's not even a circle anymore. It's just all little pieces all hubbed together from one piece of content. So think of this circle of content and then these spokes coming out on different ways that you can use it. And now people have seen it 3 to 5 times in different areas. And they're getting to see you more and more again. And written out slightly differently. You can change the wording a little bit. Make sense? Great. Can we move on? Next slide, please. So I have to, this is, how do we pull all this together? And this is where I have 2 different methods. So method 1 for me, when thinking about a newsletter, is to build a story around one product. So each month or each month, I guess you would say, you're going to feature a product. The product doesn't have to change. I mean, you don't want the same product 3, 4, 5, 6 months in a row, but you might alternate 2 products and build a story around one product or one service. Perhaps it's a customer testimonial one time, where you've got a service that you did for somebody, they absolutely loved it, and you build a story around the testimonial based on that customer, or the experience, the case study, based around that one service that you provide. If you're product-based, like an MLM, maybe you take one of the featured products that month and you talk about all of the benefits of that product And perhaps you've used it as yourself and you use it yourself as a test person where you could talk about, why do you use this in your home, right? Is it a non-toxic product? Is it, it's clean, it's much more efficient around your home, whatever it is, right? And you build a story around one product. And you may be thinking, well, how many stories can I build around a single product? But funny enough, there's a lot, right? Because you can build why you love the product. You can build around the technical aspects of the product and what makes it fantastic. And you can talk about the client testimonial, why it works for certain clients. You can talk about, you don't want to boast how many sales, but it could be your number one selling product. And this is what people say. And put in, about 3 or 4 different quotes from people about why they love this product, right? And if it's a service base, the same thing. What is the service and what can you write about it? So you can tell people what the service is and why you offer it. You could tell people why the service has helped others. You could have someone else maybe do a short little story for you, telling them why. You can find an external article to use as sort of collateral, as it will reinforce the message that you're giving. So there's lots of different ways to take your products and create stories around them. And don't be afraid to use external content, because all that does is show that you're keeping up with your industry and that you too are out there doing your own research, right? And sharing it with others, because I don't want to go look for information about your product. I want you to give it to me, right? So it's just like this presentation here, right? You can go find all of this information on the internet if you search for, e-marketing, newsletter marketing, whatever. But then you have to decipher it and pull it into little usable pieces. And you probably don't want that. You'd rather sit here for 40 minutes and have me give you all this information and it's done and you can go away and use it. So it's okay to take content that's not yours and also use it. Just remember to give credit where credit is due and the whole copyright. The second method is, I think there's a slide in there for method 2, is to select themes. So perhaps you do a 1 to 12 on a piece of paper and you think about monthly themes that you can use. If you want to do them by month, January is a cold, dreary month, and maybe that's your theme. February is Heart Month. Maybe you use Heart Month for February. March is Nutrition Month. You can do nutrition. April is, Easter, first sign of spring coming through. So you can also pick themes that you want to use, or they could be your themes that you decide you want to use. And then you build your content based on those themes of the month. I know last year, I think it was around Thanksgiving or Christmas, I can't remember, when we were in lockdown, Sarah put out an article about, being easy on yourself, about family and who you can see and can't celebrate with, and trying to mediate and work around not making anybody upset over the time. So, you could think about what comes up that month for you that you feel you'd be comfortable writing on. So those are 2 methods to think about how to put your plan together with your content. So you can put this out, you can put this out and play with that. Just do this little grid and play with ideas and thoughts and what comes best to mind based on the months. Those. Okay. So let's talk a little bit about content tips. So content tips, of course, you want to use your resources, right? You have a lot of information at hand. It's either your knowledge, or if it's an MLM, you've got support from above that will give you a lot of knowledge. There's a lot of different resources that you can pull from. Also remember, as I said, it doesn't have to be your own content. You know, if you read a great article that you're learning from that could help others, share it. It shows your learning. It shares your, as I said, you're going out there and looking for more information as well to keep your skill set up and your knowledge up. So go ahead and share it. Use a copywriter if you're really not sure and you're uncomfortable writing. Get a copywriter to help you get started. And that will give you a focus of the right terminology to use, the right wording, the right tone. And, you know, and hopefully by then you'll be able to, working with them 1 or 2 or 3 times, you'll either love what they do and not have to worry about it anymore, or gives you a sense of the best way to write your content. Use different formats, right? You want to write an article, do a video, you know, use client testimonials. You can use nice images, you know, create some nice little images for your content, but use different formats so it's not always the same. And you can engage people differently by doing that. You know, a lot of people are visual, audio, whatever it is that works best for them. So use some different formats, and it makes it fun for you as well. You know, get an idea and go ahead and run with it and try it and see what people think.
Okay, so by formats, you mean audio, video, straight text. Okay.
Yes. Yep. And there's nothing wrong. People say, oh, but I got to put images in there. You don't. There is nothing wrong with a straight text newsletter if that's what you want to do. I get straight text newsletters. I read them because I like the content. So nobody says you have to put a ton of images. Nobody says you have to put no images. It's really, what is you? What is your preference when you put your newsletter out? Be consistent in how you do it though. So if you want to use more text, less images, be consistent with that format, because if you do one that's all pictures 1 month and the next month it's just text, then, you know, make sure your branding is consistent so people know it is you and that they're following you. Okay, and I've got this Kiss Kiss Cur little short form, and it's, you know, keep it simple, keep it short, and keep it real. So short and simple, short and sweet, people love that. And keep it real. You know, be conversational. You don't have to make it all big, fancy, technical. Make it conversational so people understand it. I help a mortgage broker with her newsletters, and she used to send me these big, long scripts that were taken from, you know, a platform that she was using. And I said to her, you know, as the common home buyer, I have no idea what any of that means. None whatsoever. And she said, okay, well, take that and write it out into something that makes sense to you. So, you know, we went through this big, long process of trying to simplify a lot of this so that it was understandable. And I said, if you want, so what we do is we take these articles, break them down into realistic conversation pieces, but we link the articles. So now her financial people can go to the article if they want all that content. But the basic home buyer and mortgage owner understands the wording that she's using. So think about what your audience will understand best. And I keep a swipe file. You come across great content, I'm sure, when you're doing research, when you get newsletters, you say, oh, I like this, or I like this format, I like the look of this, I like this image. So just keep a file in your inbox or your desktop or Evernote, OneNote, whatever works for you, and put all of your information in that swipe file so that you have reference material to go to when you need to, when you're stuck. So that's been just a savior for me, because sometimes I do get super busy and I haven't really thought about what I want to write. And I just go into my swipe file and I think, oh yeah, this was an article that I really liked and I wanted to take a few points from it. So it's always a great backup for you to help you focus and give you a bit of creativity. I think I had a comment in the chat here, or a question in the chat. Let me just look. Oh, how often should I send a newsletter? Great question. My answer to that is always as often as you can do it consistently. So if consistent for you is once a month and that feels good and you can do it that way, then do it once a month. If consistent is once a week, then do it once a week. But always keep it really consistent with whatever works for you, because people will get used to your newsletter coming out at a certain time, right? So just don't do, okay, I'm going to do one, weekly, and then with one little tip on it, and then all of a sudden you don't do it for 3 weeks, because now you're off of people's radars. And chances are when they get one from you, they'll unsubscribe because they haven't heard from you in a while and they can't remember why they wanted to have you on their list. So keep it really consistent and as often as you want to. I have a client who sends one out weekly, and she is, I would say 98% of the time, she is dead on sending one out every week. So every so often a week gets missed, but she's dead on once a week. But that's a lot of work. So think about what works for you. Okay, next slide, Christine. We're going to cover newsletter tips. So when you're planning out your newsletter, I always say write out at least 3 months of articles. So have a plan that is at least for 3 months. I like to do 6 months minimum. So I like to have a sheet of paper with the months across the top and what my main article is going to be, the topic, and then go from there. And the reason I do that is because, again, if you do not think ahead to that and you get really busy, you'll skip the month. So if you just take, an hour and spend it just strictly on a plan for the next 3 to 6 months, you don't have to write all the articles, but have your main points thrown in there, then you're good to go. You will, and if you can keep it up by, once I do this month, I add a month to the end of it, then you will always have your newsletter content, and it will take you no time at all to put that newsletter together and send it out. Every newsletter needs to have a call of action. And the experts do say have only one call to action, or one main call to action. So if you want somebody to register for a program, or you want them to go watch a video, or you want them to sign up for a specific session or buy a specific product, that's your main call to action. And every newsletter has to have a call to action. You need to tell people what you want them to do. So to tell me about your product is fantastic. I want to hear it. I want to know about it. I love it. What's my next step? What do you want me to do? Then it's up to me if I'm going to actually take that call to action or not, but tell me what my next step is and how to do it. Okay, so tell me about the product. Give me a link to go see the product. I always tell people in MLM to do this because they say, well, I have the online catalog. That's fantastic, but give me the link to that specific item that I can go to and buy it on the spot. Because if I have to go look for it, I'm going to give up and not buy it. Okay. Also in your newsletter, always let people know how to reach you. I've received newsletters and I want to follow up with somebody on something and I can't reach them. There's nowhere on there that tells me how to email them, find them on social media or whatever. So always make sure you have your contact information on the newsletter for people to reach you. And repurpose the content. So we talked about, seeing something 7 times. We talked about 3 to 5 different pieces of content that people will see before they engage. So don't be afraid to repurpose your content. If you've written a great blog, put a short part of it in your newsletter, put your blog on your website, and then take bits and pieces of that and use that in social media, right? Or at that point, even at the bottom of the blog, put the link to your newsletter and say, featured this in this newsletter, and put a link there so people can see the rest of your newsletter if they want to click on it. Always think about ways to bring people around in a circle. You know, what can they click on to see something else? How can I promote just a little bit more? If they're interested, what's that next step they can take? And if you've written an article this month, think about how you can reword it maybe 3 months from now or 4 months from now. As I talked about those higher revenue generators or the programs that you want to promote more, the service you want to promote more, you know, rewrite that slightly 3 months from now, 2 to 3 months from now, because people really won't remember it. And if they did, no big deal. You've rewritten it slightly, you've repurposed the content, and you've reminded them that it's there. So don't be afraid to do that. You don't always have to have new content. So here's the strategy simplified. Really, it's determining, you know, focus on your mission. What is your mission? What are your products? Because that's what you're going to be selling, your product or your services. And then what pieces of content, what information about those products and about your mission can you write about in your newsletter? It's a very simple 3-step process to think about. Oh, you can go ahead. Okay, I love this little quote from Anastasia Bryce. Being successful requires you to focus on what you're doing and what you want to do. So keep your eye on the goal and ask yourself, what am I doing here? Right? That's your mission. What are you doing there? Why are you in your business? There's all kinds of possible layers to the answer your wise self will give you. And let the answers guide your next action. So what are those answers? What do people need to know about what you're doing and why you're doing it? And that can be the basis for your newsletter content. So I did just want to talk quickly. I've left some time for questions, so hopefully we have some or discussion, but I did want to let you know, this is all very overwhelming to a lot of people, right? You're so close to your business and you think about, I don't know what it is that I can write about, that people want to hear about, and where do I get started? So I do offer this pretty much what we've talked about today, the whole mission strategy, as a personalized newsletter content plan for you. The cost of it is $197. And what it does is we spend about an hour talking about your business and a lot of what we talked about today. And I come back to you with a 6-month plan outlined for you. So you need to fill in the blanks with your expertise as far as writing the full article or getting the client testimonial, that type of thing. But the 6-month plan is all outlined for you. You fill in the blanks with your available expertise. I can help you in that as well. But the basic program just covers that shell that you follow. It's been quite successful for some of the people I've worked with, and they've been pretty happy with being able to just follow it along. And some of them have said that I've brought out ideas that they would have never thought about writing. The other is the building your list. We all want to build that list. And the quickest way, the easiest way to build a list, there's two. One is to offer an opt-in that people can sign up for. They get the opt-in, they go into your mailing list. And then the next step to that is to build a welcome funnel for them. And my program for that starts at $97, and then we can add on as needed, but the basic one is $97. And the other part of building a list is, I forgot what I was going to say here. It's the opt-in, the welcome funnel, and building a list. Another quick way to build a list is to host a free webinar. People love webinars. So if you host a free webinar for people to come and join and listen to what you have to share, it's not a sales webinar, it's an education webinar, then generally those people will sign up to hear more from you and will stay on your list that way. So just a little tip there for you as you're doing it. And that is everything. That is building a strategy for your newsletter and your e-marketing. Are there any questions, thoughts, comments? know if there's anything in the chat. Thank you, Christine.
Marianne, I have a
Evangeline?
question.
Yeah.
In the very beginning, I forget what number slide it was, but you had mentioned about values and benefits they receive and what is the value. How do you define the difference between the two, between a benefit and a value?
That's a good question. I guess it's the benefits and or the value, right? It's you know,
Here's the way I share that. A benefit is if you buy this application, it's going to save you time. The value is, and correct me if you guys differ on this, the value is by saving time, I'll get to spend more time with my children. That's kind of where I see it. It's one is a direct correlation to the service or product, the outcome, and the other is how it changes you, how it transforms you or makes your life better. Sorry, Marianne.
No, that's good. Yeah, I like doing it that way.
Sarah, what is your benefit value definition? You
mean in my business or just my perspective? So the benefit for working with me is that I take loads of stress off people's minds and give them peace of mind going forward and solutions.
She provides the solutions, which gives them the peace of mind. So Evangeline, in your business, what is a tangible benefit and what is the value that offers?
I give them tips and tricks of how to move efficiently so that they can actually move functionally without pain and discomfort.
Yeah, so you're offering them. I like that. Do you do that video or do you do that written or pictures?
In terms of, I do it through my explanation. So in terms of video, I would explain it in the video. I would explain it to the person. But in terms of, yeah, that's a tricky one. I'm trying to still get my head wrapped around that from a branding point of view.
30-second, 1-minute video.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Because then you could even demonstrate the movement.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you. I'll go with that.
There's your micro tip.
Yes, exactly. Micro tip. I love it.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, ladies.
Yeah. Any other thoughts or questions?
I have a question for the group. How many of you are currently sending out newsletters? How many are sending out newsletters today? Couple? Yeah. How many of you are sending out newsletters consistently? Yeah. Well, you should be, girl.
It's hard. Like you kind of think, oh, it's just a newsletter and I can do it, no big deal. But you know what? Unless you really apply yourself to it, and this is why a lot of times we put the cart before the horse, in that we say, okay, I'm going to write my newsletter, and I go and I sit down and I write it because I got time this month, right? This is great. I put a newsletter next week. I've got time today. I'm going to write it out. And all of a sudden, next month comes along and I'm so busy, I have no time. And that's where my swipe file has really saved me, because I do get really busy. And all of a sudden, I send mine out about the 4th week of the month, somewhere within that last week. I don't have a specific day. All of a sudden, it's, you know, the 30th of the month. And I'm like, oh my God, I haven't put a newsletter together. So, you know, because I really didn't think about it at all during the month. So I go to my swipe file, find something that flows with what I've been doing and put it out there. But then I stop and take a half hour and plan out, you know, okay, what is it, you know, next month and the month after. So it's overwhelming to do it that way. So to take an hour, you know, just block off an hour of time once a month and add to your plan and have a content plan that's 3 to 6 months out and continuous, then you've got it.
Yeah, planning is a big struggle of mine.
Yeah.
I'm so busy doing. And I
know.
feel that, and others may feel
True.
the same way. I feel that it's faster and easier, more economical to send out to post in my group, for example, to post
Mhm.
on social media. But then the day comes when Facebook decides you did something that broke their community rules and you no longer have access to Facebook. You no
Well,
longer have access to Instagram. So
yeah,
we
and
don't
that's the other
own
thing
social.
too.
Yeah.
Yeah, when you have a newsletter and you're building your list for your newsletter, that's your list. No one can lock you out of that list. But if you get locked out of Facebook, or Instagram, then what do?
Yeah.
You now can't communicate for 30 days. So,
That happened to me
yeah.
in December of 2018.
Mhm.
My entire account disappeared.
Yep.
Like everything. You know how
Yep.
we post pictures of our kids and I'm like, but I didn't save anything from that year.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's quite
Yeah.
scary.
Yeah, it happened to a client of mine. Yeah, she lost her whole following on Facebook. Fortunately, she has an amazing list that she's built over many years on her mailing list.
Yeah.
So, she promotes her events on there and everything. She lost all of it. It just disappeared.
Yeah.
Did you get it back, Christine? Did you get?
After 3 days, yeah. They just
Oh,
reinstated
good.
it.
Okay.
They reinstated it. I was promoting the MAWB marketplace, and we had like 20 people who donated door prizes. So I was like, oh, it's Friday night. I'm watching a movie. I'll just share this. And I just, hey, Judy, thanks. Connect with Judy here. Hey, Evangeline, thanks. Connect with Evangeline here. And it thought I was a robot because I was just doing it so quickly. And
yeah.
it's like, this is my group. I'm
Yeah.
not spamming anyone, but it doesn't.
Yeah, I was
see
wondering
that.
what you did.
Yeah.
That would make them shut you down. Like,
Yeah.
wow.
It's scary.
Mhm.
And my clients was just gone. It just disappeared. She went to Facebook. They said they had no idea what happened and it was just
Oh.
gone. She's never gotten it back.
Oh no.
Yeah.
That would be sad.
It was really sad. But as I said, she had her big mailing list because that's where she was putting all her, she was making sure she was getting everybody on her list. So luckily, she still had that. But yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
If there's one thing I wish I had done sooner as an entrepreneur, it would have been to be better at being consistent with my email marketing. And those touch points with my clients.
I have a question. So if you didn't start your newsletter for your very first one, I mean, I know it's hard to start, but what do you recommend as your content? Would it be like a hello, welcome? Oh, yeah.
Always. Yeah, I always recommend that. Your very first one has hello, welcome to, whatever, my newsletter or whatever you're going to call it. So happy to connect with you this way. Share maybe some little tips, share a little bit about what you're doing. It's just something a little more personal. And always, 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 because it's your first one, with a little caveat or a little line in the bottom that says, if you don't want to, if you do not want to continue to receive these, please feel free to unsubscribe at the bottom, because you don't want anyone to think it's spam and report you as spam. And, and you think people won't, but I had a client a few weeks ago, well-established client, had been in the business for years, but somebody on their list reported their newsletter as spam. Don't know why. They've been sending out newsletters for years, but all of a sudden, this person reported it as spam. So MailChimp flags it. They use MailChimp and MailChimp flags it. But if it flags it too often, it too will shut you down because they think you're spamming and it's a problem. So yeah, so always make sure that you put a statement in there that they can unsubscribe.
I guess that goes
on your
back
first
to,
one.
That goes back to Evangeline's point of benefits to value, in a sense that if you're offering value in your newsletter, if you're giving something in your newsletter, and I'm talking to like, buy this and get a free that, a true giving, here's the tip, here's a PDF, here's a document, here's a great strategy, here's a 2-minute, whatever. If you're giving and you're offering value, then there's something in it for them, not just $5 off coupon.
Yeah. So I always say return on investment. So if I'm going to invest, 5 to 10 minutes to read your newsletter, I need to walk away with something. I need to have a little aha moment or chuckle, or I need to have something come of it. Right.
So for the first one, you're just saying welcome. Should you have something there?
I would. Yeah, I would definitely put something in there, a little tip or something. Yeah.
Well, when are you planning on sending it out, Maria?
I don't have a plan.
The reason I'm asking is because I know you have an extensive YouTube channel.
Yeah.
Perhaps you can go back and see if they're organizing for the fall, right? And depending on who your audience is, like, I don't know, organizing the mud room or something, because you're not just a stager, you're an organizer. I don't know who your audience is, but
if you like repurpose content that you have, you probably have a lot already there that you can go and look at and say, like blogs that you've written or articles you've written or like, YouTube channel information, even social media stuff. You probably have content already out there that you can go back and say, hey, I can plop this in and have my first 4 months done or 6 months already with content I've put out there in the past. So without having to recreate anything and be overwhelmed, keep it really simple, because people are overwhelmed with information. So you just want to give them little bits, just so your name shows up in their inbox. Because a lot of people say to me, well, people won't read the newsletter, right? And that could very well be true. I don't read every newsletter that comes into my inbox, but I see people's names. Right? Because I always scroll through who's sending what. So your name is always popping up into my inbox. So how am I going to remember you? If I don't see your name, I'm not going to remember you.
I'm just worried I don't want to bother anyone with it too, right? So
their choice.
I guess they can unsubscribe. That's
fine. They can unsubscribe. It's their choice.
The one thing I used to tell my team was, you don't have a storefront. So if they need your help, they can't find you. So you need to show up and be visible.
Right.
And make it seasonal. Right now, everybody should be thinking of ways to make what they're giving a seasonal.
Yeah. But you're not, if you're bothering them, they can unsubscribe. But by not showing up, you're not there at all.
Can I offer a perspective on this?
Yeah.
As someone whose content isn't necessarily fun and delightful, because nobody likes talking about being angry. I felt the same way when I sent out my first one. I'm like, nobody wants to get emails about talking angry and communication. So I held off doing it for a long time. But the reality is that I don't think a single unsubscribe. So you're not bothering them. And if they don't like it, they're just going to unsubscribe. But if you're giving them something that gives them even a little bit of something, then you're actually you're doing them a service. So think of it that way. Like you're providing knowledge and service you're giving them a gift of your knowledge. And if you change your perspective to that, then you stop feeling like a burden. Even though I don't send them out often enough to really have a say, that's the perspective I use when I send them.
Marianne? It's real, right? It's totally real. Judy, I'm going to get back to you in 1 second. Sure. Christine mentioned, giving away a PDF or giving away something. If you've got videos on YouTube, that's great. If you're going to give them a PDF or a document of some sort, I would always do it as a sign up for 2 reasons. So do it like you would an opt-in, even though they're already on your list. But this way you can track the interest. So if you're going to give them, like I did one that was how to work with a virtual assistant, totally free, but I did it as a sign up because I wanted to see who was on there, because that puts people into sort of a different funnel or client base for me, because these people are interested in how to work with a virtual assistant, whereas the other ones, other people who didn't click on it aren't. So now if I really want to go and target more, I can go send out a separate mailing to those people. So if you're giving anything away, do it in a sign up way so you can track who is actually signing up for it in case you want to get deeper into following up with certain people.
Well, and Marianne, I think there's a way in MailChimp where you can say, if they
Yeah.
click on this, then do this next, where you can set up email segmenting. Like Sue,
Yeah.
for example, you're a realtor, right, Sue? Yes. So if they clicked on something about being a buyer in 0 to 3 months, then she's going to want to know that and put them on a different
Yeah.
stream of a mailing sequence. Those are
That's right.
buyers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you really want to track your data if you're going to do it. Yeah. Sorry, Judy, go ahead.
Oh, that's okay. I was just going to give Maria a tip. So when I used to do newsletters at my work, one of the things that is kind of a lazy way to do it, instead of writing an article, you do listicles. So you do lists, 5 wonderful ways to, set up for Christmas, or countdown to Christmas. And here's how you plan.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a faster, and it's a quick read. I love reading lists myself. I love reading, the 5 best restaurants, in Mississauga, that kind of thing, for chicken wings. So yeah, just be specific about something and just kind of, even though I don't have a newsletter myself, but for work, I used to do newsletters, and I remember I loved doing listicles.
That makes it actually easier that you don't have to really
Takes
write
the
out.
pressure off, doesn't it?
You just do your research. Think like Christine said, maybe the mud room, because it's fall. So you could say 5 easy steps to clear up your mud room.
Well, the reason I said that is because we were looking for backpacks today in the mud room. Oh my God.
There you go.
We're getting your office tidied up after summer break.
Yeah. Love it.
Well, great. So I know we've gone over time, but I'm, happy to answer any more questions. You can email me your questions if you prefer. I've just put my contact information in the chat.
Perfect. And I think, have you looked in there lately? How often? Oh, okay. Yeah. I think you answered the last one.
I think that was the only question.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll save the chat as a TXT and send it to you in case there's something there, Marianne. And then for the others who shared their contact information, I'll make sure to get that out with the replay. Any final questions for Marianne? I will send her contact information again, so you have it if you want to follow up with her and touch base with her about her offers and what she does. Certainly, she is open to, Okay.
There's going to be a replay, Christine. Did you say? Because I missed the first part of this.
But yes. Yep. So it's being recorded, even this part right now.
Oh, don't forget your picture.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Let's do that. Judy's so good. All right. So I'll say smile, and then you gals can smile. I haven't done pictures in a while, and my fingers are okay. 1, 2, 3, smile. Awesome. Thanks, ladies. You'll get the replay. It has to render, then I have to upload it. So it'll be a couple of hours, Judy, but definitely.
It's okay.
And as I was saying, Marianne's contact information, feel free to reach out to her if you have any questions that you didn't want to ask in the group, or if you want to get any suggestions or pointers from her. I'm sure she'd be happy to answer some quick and easy questions. All right, everyone.
Great.
Thank you.
Thanks for attending.
Bye.
Bye.